So it's been a while since I've done a Tougie's Take. I haven't had really a whole hell of a lot to talk about. Of course, with the style of these videos, I've been wanting to talk about multiple topics in one video as opposed to just one topic. And really, when you look at the news that we're going to be talking about today, you can tell by the tabs. We're going to be talking a little bit of NHL 19. We're going to be talking a little bit of top 20 lists. And we're going to be talking a little bit of wrestling. I even wore the Samoa Joe shirt, the original NXT shirt, so you can see how big of a nerd I am, right? Wrestling nerd. Anyway, I'll save the wrestling talk for last, so those who don't give a damn, you don't have to watch. It's all well and good. That said, let's get right down to business here, because I got other stuff to do today. As far as NHL 19 goes, I said on Twitter I wasn't going to make a video about it, and I'm not making a full-length video about the franchise mode news because there's not much for me to say. And I said that on Twitter with my initial reaction. If I were to make a video, it would basically just be, I'm excited about NHL 19 because that's what it is. Boy, I could be a car salesman. Sale. I don't know why I went with sale. Discounts. I'm over. I still don't have a hell of a lot to say about NHL 19 because that is my reaction. I'm pumped about the news, and I'm not taking shots at people that make videos where they just recap exactly what articles like this Game Informer article say, where it recaps exactly, I don't know why this is taking so long, where it recaps what happened or what was said in this 16-minute video. Shout out to Bojo, shout out to Tactics. I love both of you. How you doing? If you're seeing this, you're probably not. Bojo might be because of the wrestling talk. I'm not that type of person. I need to be motivated in a way to make a YouTube video, and some people gotta be like, you make GM mode videos, what are you talking about? It's so basic and simple and stupid. And you're right, but still, to make a video like that where I just recap everything that you could find out by watching an already established video, that's not what I like to do. That said, the information that pertains from this video, from an article like the Game Informer article, am I excited for it? Yes. Now, obviously, there are still some questions that remain unanswered as far as stuff you would have heard me talk about on Twitter, Twitch, and right here on YouTube, as far as what I'm hoping for in NHL 19, whether it's something major, whether it's something minor, like being able to scroll through the draft using the triggers, being able to see nationalities and free agency, stuff that pertains to quality of life and would help make some of my series better. I still don't know the answers to that. But that doesn't mean I'm not excited for what's here. If someone wants to ask me, oh, do you think Fog of War is a good addition? Yes, I really do. I really do. I think it's great that I think Braden Point was the guy used as the example in the video. I think it's great that as a Braden Point ends up improving throughout the course of a season, you start to lose information on him because he's changing as a player. A Joe Thornton could be regressing. He's changing as a player. I think it's great that you have to scout your own prospects, because obviously with the way progression works in NHL 18, you get your end of season full progression, and then between between seasons and the off season, that's what they call it, you would also get extra improvements. So your 75 overall guy could be an 81 out of nowhere. Now you're not gonna know. You got to scout your own guy, which again in theory sounds stupid. But to get that surprise of seeing, oh my god, Victor Mete in one offseason went from a 77 to an 82. Holy shit, this guy's good to go, and that completely changes what my team looks like. That's exciting, especially for a series like Draft to Glory. That's incredible. There are so many other changes as well. I mean, obviously the scouting, being able to hire and fire scouts is tremendous, and they went full FHM with it, where you have amateur and pro scouts. That's better than I ever would have thought. I mean, I would imagine you've seen the video. It's been out, what is today, the 20th? This video's been out for 3 days. I would imagine that you've watched this already, and if you've followed me on any platform for any number of time, you will know how excited I am for this, being able to keep an actual short list and not only being able to, pin 5 players. Obviously, I'm pumped for that. The custom draft class for 32nd team expansion, I'm obviously pumped for that. It would have been very helpful for the Osprey series. There isn't anything that they mentioned in this video that I'm not pumped for. Even improved waivers, talking about how the AI is going to handle drafting differently. There's nothing from this I'm not excited about. I could go over every individual thing that's mentioned in articles like this and in the video, I'm excited. And I think you should be too. Because at the very least, and I've talked about this too, right? Obviously, I had my fingers crossed, and there were tentative plans for me to kind of be one of the game changers that got to go out to Vancouver and test things out. That was put on the back burner. They put the focus on gameplay. I'm fine with this end result. I am. I'm not selfish. The gameplay looks amazing. If me going to Vancouver means that NHL, or me not going to Vancouver, if that means, you know, the end result is I get what NHL 19 is shaping up to be, which the gameplay, I've talked about it, the beta gameplay, it's shaping up to be one of the best NHL games ever. And then I look at what's here for franchise mode. There might be some minor things that aren't in that I am upset about or disappointed in, but with what I've seen here, I'm going to really have no room to complain. I'm really not. So I don't have a whole hell of a lot to say aside from that. If you guys want my opinion, and keep in mind during the video, keep an eye on the top right hand corner up there, because there were some other little tidbits added in that you might have missed. If there's a question about a specific feature that they've added in that you want my opinion on, let me know down in the comments. I will gladly respond. But I didn't want to make a video going point by point and through videos and the articles saying, oh, this is here and this is here. You know that if you've looked it up. And if you don't know, and if a 16 minutes video is too much time out of your day, then go watch Bojo's video, go watch Tactics' video. I would say go watch my video, but like I said, those videos just don't excite me to make them. So, NHL 19 franchise mode, bottom line, is looking amazing. It is. I know some people were actually complaining about the menus, and that's all well and good. You talk here about the depth chart, and just, it looks great. That's the long and short of it. I said that's what this video would be. This subject, if I were to make a video on it, I said that's what this would be. Here we are. It's great. I'm pumped. We're less than a month away. I mean, really, we're about, what, 3 weeks away? A little bit over 3 weeks away from this game's launch. I'm excited. And you guys should be too. I think we're going to have a lot of fun, both on the Twitch and YouTube side of things. I will link these, the video, of course, and well, I'll just link this article because it has the video on it as well. If you haven't checked it out already, there is a little bit more information that is mentioned here. And I still say, too, it's like one of the things that's mentioned here, the fact that players can retire and become scouts. The fact that an enforcer might appear as a power forward and you have to scout him to get that perfect info. It's fucking wonderful. It really is. It's phenomenal. And I don't know. It's weird because I feel like in a way I have a reputation for being overly negative, overly critical, which, might be well earned. The fact that I've put out videos in the past. I mean, hell, you might have seen the Ones video. Which that was fun, or the beta reaction video. The fact that I once put out a video after being put into the content creator program, which is now, of course, everyone's known as a game changer. There's just different tiers. The fact that I put out a video saying the next copy of NHL 18 comes with a bottle of lube if you pre-order, for how dicked over you're gonna get. I've earned that reputation, I guess, but I say this genuinely. I am fucking excited for this game. I am. So if you haven't had a chance, read over this article. Look over the video as well. If you haven't, it's worth your time. That said, before we get into the whole wrestling talk, there's been a lot of debate over top 20 list that NHL Network has been doing. Of course, with the defensive list, people were losing their fucking mind that Provorov wasn't a top 20 defenseman on the board. With this list, some people are like, oh my god, Patrick Kane's fourth, what? And how was Brad Marchand ahead of this? And I gotta be honest, the one that confuses me is how the fuck is Blake Wheeler only number 9? Blake Wheeler's amazing. I'm not a big fan of doing these type of lists myself. You'll notice that because there aren't any on the channel. It's all subjective. It's all opinion. That's why I'm not like, oh, who's the best in the league right now, Crosby or McDavid? Guess what? They're both phenomenal. So who cares? I don't like having that debate. I really don't. I've never liked having that debate of like, oh, who are your top 5 players of all time? It's like, well, am I basing it off of skill? And then if you're basing it off of skill, if they're two different types of players, like I can look at a Patrick Kane, I can look at Brad Marchand. It's like, well, Marchand's really good offensively, but he's also tremendous defensively. But Patrick Kane's amazing offensively, 4th and 5th. I don't know. It's like, I'm not a big fan of these lists. I'm not saying that I'm not a fan of NHL Network's list. Whatever they want the order to be, by all means, because it's all opinion, it's all subjective anyway. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the whole outrage culture over, oh my God, Victor Arvidsson's 20th. Like, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And if I were to make my top 20 list, I'm sure I'd piss some people off. Because, again, do you go off of skill? Do you go off of points? This, that. It's all subjective. Who cares? That said, in terms of season preview, I still plan on doing the early beginning of the season cup prediction, the playoff prediction and everything, where I will go through basically every team in short order and say, here's how I think they'll do. And guess what? It's subjective. It doesn't matter. Am I going to be wrong on a couple of things? Yeah, guess what? Because this will be the third year I've done this video, and I've been wrong. Trust me. I'm pretty sure I predicted the Avalanche to make the playoffs the year where they were absolutely abysmal. What are you going to do? Hell, and as if predictions weren't hard enough, the Vegas Golden Knights last year just say, hey, yeah, you like to make predictions? Not anymore, you don't, because now you have no idea what's going to happen ever. I'm afraid to make predictions because of the Vegas Golden Knights, so thanks a lot. You didn't even win. Damn it. Anyway, so yeah, that video will still come out. I'm not going to do individual videos for every single team because, again, as I've mentioned with this video, I can't carry a 5-minute video about here's how the Coyotes are going to do. It takes 30 seconds. I look at their defense, I look at their goaltending, I look at their forwards. Okay, I'll compare to this team, and that's it. The end. So that video will be out there. Before we move on to the wrestling talk, number one, for those of you that are going to be turning off this video, hey, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Drop the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm closing in on 10K. I have 3 weeks, damn it, roughly, to hit 10K for the 3-year goal. I've talked about it on Twitter. Talked about it before. The 1-year goal, September 2015 to September 2016. The goal was to get 1,000 subs to mean that I was making progress and should still do this. We smashed it. The 2-year goal, 5K. We fucking smashed it. This year, 10K. We're about 500 or so away. If we don't hit the 10K before, I think it's September 7th is it's either the 7th or the 9th where I uploaded my first video in 2015. If we don't hit 10K, it's all well and good. We got partnered on Twitch. I consider that to make up for the fact. That to say, the channel's not going anywhere. That to say, 10K special will probably happen. Not sure what it's going to be, but it'll probably happen. So yeah. But yeah, anyway, as far as the hockey talk, we're done. We're going to move on to the wrestling talk. Not before I mention that this video is sponsored by SeatGeek. I know you saw the little thing at the beginning of the video. Now you're wondering, boy, this is probably sponsored by SeatGeek. I just wonder where he's going to insert the ad. Right here. Right here. It's a ticket app. In my opinion, my humble opinion, the best ticket purchasing app. They color code. They let you know on the grand scheme of things how good of a deal you are getting. And all you have to do is use this code that you're seeing on screen right now to get a discount off your first ticket purchase. You should do it. Baseball, football, hockey. It's coming up. We're close. Get yourself a good deal on some seats with SeatGeek and help me out. Help me with a little bit of kickback. Because money, that's why we're all in this. That's what we're here for, is the money. Because this, talking hockey, video games, and wrestling, boy, I'm rolling in the money. Nothing says give this man money like being a hockey and wrestling nerd. Nothing. So use that code, get yourself a little bit of a discount, and let's talk about some wrestling. Which, I am going to start off with SummerSlam as opposed to NXT. For one reason. Boy, this PC, look at it, just chugging along. Chugging. There we go. We're good. I am going to talk about SummerSlam first because I got a feeling I'm going to be a tad bit more negative about SummerSlam as opposed to NXT, so I want to at least end the video on a high note. I'm going to get right into this. I'm going to go match by match. I guess the overall thing. SummerSlam was a good show. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was okay to good, depending on your opinion. That said, I understand why they have the pre-show. Obviously, it's good for advertisers. It's good to try and convince people to buy the pay-per-view. Then again, don't think it needs to be 2 goddamn hours. I remember the glorious days of Sunday Night Heat, where it was, hey, here's Just Incredible against Billy Kidman, buy our pay-per-view. And I was like, holy shit, I want to buy the pay-per-view. And we couldn't afford it half the time. But that match was enough. Instead, it's like, here's Andrade, Cien Almas, and Zelina Vega against Rusev and Lana, and in front of a 25% filled arena, and just, nah. Like, this is the type of match where it's like, for the love of God, can we just have this be like a SmackDown main event one week? Instead of making it look like shit on the pre-show. It was an okay match. It's what you would expect the match to be. As far as what they're doing with Rusev, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm over Rusev Day, but aren't most of us? I think people still like Rusev. I still like Rusev. But it's not... It was the first match on the pre-show. You know? So, it's a fine match. Whatever. Speaking of matches that, again, can it not just be the main event of a weekly show as opposed to being on the pre-show and having it look not important? So, a fine match. Nothing spectacular. I mean, it didn't top anything from the night before, of course. Not that we really... I mean, it has the potential to. Both these guys are great. I particularly love Drew Gulak. But, yeah. Nothing special. And again, it just kind of makes it look meh. I'd prefer the pre-show. It's funny enough. I would prefer the pre-show. If you're going to sit there and try to sell people on it, don't have a match where it's like, hey, look at this important match in front of half an arena. Have it be, no disrespect, but have it be guys lower on the card. Have it be your Tyler Breeze against your whoever. That's it. Instead of, trying to tell us, hey, this is an important match. It's not. Second on the pre-show out of 3. Nah. Okay match again, like I said, it is what it is. I gotta admit, I have never watched an episode of 205 Live. I just haven't. I can't. And I've actually talked about this, and screw it, now's a good enough time to bring it up. In terms of my wrestling consumption over the past few years, I'm probably watching... I don't know if I'm gonna say I've been watching less wrestling overall, but I've been watching less current wrestling overall. I've mentioned it before, as far as being a wrestling fan, since I was 3 goddamn years old. I can remember 97 is where the memories vividly start. My parents are both wrestling fans. They're still both wrestling fans. I didn't watch this show until Monday morning. My parents watched it on Sunday night. I was talking to my dad. He's like, we're up until midnight. It was great. I'm like, shit. So my parents still enjoy wrestling. I have them to blame for being fans, although, hey, you know what? It's been a thing for a while. A couple of years ago, I'd say really 4 years ago, it's like I was watching everything. And even then, there's still promotions I wish I could keep up with. But at a certain point, it was like, okay, PWG, AAW, Chikara, Evolve, New Japan, like just anything, just wrestling. Give me the wrestling. And I don't know if I burned out or not. But it's like now I'll watch takeovers. I don't watch NXT weekly. I do not watch any of WWE's programming weekly. I watch New Japan. Because, again, wrestling nerd and such. That said, I'm not a big enough nerd to be like, hey, I'm going to watch the Destruction and Kobe tour. Like, no, I'll watch the main cards. And as it is, New Japan right now, I'm so burned out after the G1. I try to follow, like, your progresses and your ICWs and just, I can't. There's just too much out there to keep up with. So, yeah, I don't know. The majority of my wrestling consumption now, like I said, not following a 2 Alive, the majority of my wrestling consumption right now is New Japan, NXT Takeovers, the occasional, like, Progress show if I can watch it, but even then, And my main consumption of wrestling right now, I'm watching back Raw and the pay-per-views from 97, which, I'll tell you, is phenomenal. It is that good to go back and watch those shows. I'm right in the middle of the Hart Foundation against the U.S., although obviously watching the Hart Foundation now, and for obvious reasons, it's a little bit depressing in certain ways. Brian Christopher just debuted. It's a little bit depressing in certain ways. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just on that nostalgia trip, yet I still find myself watching pretty much every WWE pay-per-view. I didn't watch Extreme Rules, like, at all. I didn't really watch Money in the Bank either. Anyway, let's get back on track. Whatever, ranting and rambling aside. Another match where it's like, hey, did you need it to be on the pre-show? Here's your important tag title match that's on the pre-show. I'm just not a fan of that. Again, fine match. I mean, I I might be the biggest Curtis Axel fan on the planet, but even then, would have been nice to see the Revival win. Didn't happen, which I'll jump ahead and say I'm looking forward to Raw and SmackDown in a way, just to see if there are any call-ups. But as always, I'm nervous for said call-ups because look at the Revival. Granted, they were derailed by injuries a bit, but just look at the Revival. I don't know. Again, could have gone without watching it. It was a pre-show match. I probably should have known. Speaking of could have gone without watching it, Rollins and Ziggler opened the show, and guess what? It was a Rollins and Ziggler match. The end. Rollins wins. Ambrose was very sneaky in terms of right at the end, he kept standing behind Seth, and you could hear people in the crowd go, oh, as if he was going to do something. Smart on them to not, of course. They're saving that for down the line. If you've seen one Seth Rollins Dolph Ziggler match, you've seen them all. So, yeah, can't say I was overly excited for that match. It was okay. It was good, but meh. Just kind of meh. There's nothing out of the ordinary. The end. I don't have a ton to say about it. Aside from the fact that it's like, can we please get Drew McIntyre away from Dolph Ziggler, please? I don't think people have cared about Dolph Ziggler, aside from the No Mercy match, since about 2013. So let's just move on, please. Speaking of an okay match, some people described it as good. That, again, just couldn't really get invested in, despite the fact that one of my favorite people on the roster, Luke Harper, was involved. Again, I mentioned being a big Chikara fan in the past. I've fallen out of it a bit just because I'm way too far behind. Good match, okay match. It was a trend throughout the night of using one of your big events to continue a storyline leading into one of your smaller events. I'm not a big fan of that. It's not a new trend. They did it 10 years ago. They did it 20 years ago. Still not my favorite thing in the world. Call me crazy. I feel as though a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania should be the blow-off to a feud, not, oh, watch next month. Like, no, next month should be the start of something new. WrestleMania, Nakamura and Styles. It shouldn't have been watch Backlash or whatever the fuck the next event was. That should have been it. I'm not a big fan of that trend. Again, it was an okay match. We'll see more of them later. Which, there'll be good matches, I guess. And if it's at Hell in a Cell, I don't know if we'll get a Hell in a Cell between these guys. I mean, the Hell in a Cell last year with New Day and the Usos was great. But I can't help but think SmackDown's already going to have a Hell in a Cell match. It might not be this one. So we'll see what happens there. This next match certainly disappointed a lot of people. Caught me by surprise. As Kevin Owens lost in what was it, like 70 seconds? Number one, the fucking choke slam on the ramp. What are you doing? I fear for now. I understand now because obviously, like I said, I didn't get to watch a ton. I don't have those vivid memories of like having that concern for Mick Foley growing up because it was more like, oh my god, look what's happening. I imagine that if I was in my 20s or 30s in the late 90s and watching Mick Foley do what he was doing, I'd have the same reaction that I have now of watching Kevin Owens take a fucking choke slam on the apron. At least with the cage match, they were smart enough, to have the crash mat underneath the announce table, and good on you. That fucking choke slam scared the shit out of me. You just bounce. It's like, oh my god, because it's like, I remember watching his YouTube show, seeing his kids and everything, and it's like, man, just please be able to play with your kids in 10 years, please. That aside, I'm a Kevin Owens fan. Him losing this quickly, does it hurt him necessarily? No. I mean, granted, it's not great. Really kind of, it sucks because there's the debate of, oh, well, he was a Universal Champion and now he's losing in 70 seconds, but he lost to Braun, who lost to Lesnar. It's just, they don't think about these things, so I don't say it hurts him because for all we know, he'll be the one to go up against Rollins for the title. Who knows? It didn't bother me that much. They had to make Strowman For what they were going to do later on in the show, they had to make sure people knew, hey, Strowman didn't really break a sweat tonight. He destroyed Kevin Owens. It ends that whole thing, I would hope. Obviously, like I said, in terms of someone just getting destroyed, would have been nice to see it be someone else other than Kevin Owens, but it is what it is. I get why they did what they did after seeing the main event. That didn't piss me off as much as this pissed me off. Charlotte, and I mean, hey, let's be honest, everyone and their mother's like, can you mention Charlotte without mentioning the new implants? I don't know if you can. I certainly couldn't. Charlotte wins her 7th title already, which is fucking ridiculous. Credit to Carmella, she's certainly gotten better. They turned Becky Lynch heel. I'm so tired of the trend. You know, WWE gets the rap of they don't know how to book baby faces, right? You get Becky Lynch. Who dislikes Becky Lynch? Nobody wants to boo Becky Lynch. And guess what? The majority of people aren't going to boo Becky Lynch, even though you're phrasing her or positioning her as the heel very clearly. I don't get it. Why? Why can you not book baby faces? Why can't you? Why can't you? I don't get it. And for people, I ended up seeing conversations people were having like, oh, they have fucking attitude era ruined it, so who cares? I mean, fuck, people were cheering Sid when he was a heel. You can't blame the attitude era. It's just their fucking inability to book faces, and it's fucking annoying because nobody wants to boo Becky. Just make her fucking champion. I got physically upset. I did. I got upset. I'm like, you fucking idiots. I'm sitting here watching it on this very monitor, just sitting here in awe. Just, you fucking idiots. I cannot believe this. You fucking idiots. It was that disappointing. So, we'll see where that goes. I guess that match that they're going to be having at Evolution is going to be a thing. Hooray. Becky is the goddamn heel. Unbelievable. Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. Good match. Unfortunately, the crowd was dead for the majority of it, and that was really kind of the theme of the night. I don't know if that had to do with just the way they were handling the audio or what. I felt like the crowd was dead for a good portion of the night. For big spots in every match, they got up for it. Whenever Joe got on the mic at the beginning or the end of this match, they were up for it. But the crowd, I really feel like that hurt this match a bit. It was a really good match, but again, a match on a main card being used as setup, I'm not a major fan of. Like I said, I have a feeling we'll be seeing this in Hell in a Cell, which I'm fine with. It's tough because I think a part of the burnout for me was just, again, I really feel like that WrestleMania match between Nakamura and Styles contributed to me just being like, okay, I think I'm burnt out on WWE. I can't help but follow it. And people have always been like, well, there's so much good stuff out there. Only follow what you like. As a wrestling fan, though, you kind of can't help but at least follow what's going on WWE-wise. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the Hell in a Cell match. It should be great, but then again, I thought that about the rematches with Styles and Nakamura, and those weren't. So, who knows? It was a good match. Joe's great. He's finally being positioned as a main event heel. Do I expect him to win? No, because I agree with the thought that Styles is on the cover of the next game. He's not losing. Probably until the Rumble. I mean, hell, people have been talking like, oh, they're going to want him to take away CM Punk's record. That might be the case. That might be the case. But at the very least, Joe's getting used in a prominent role. Hopefully he can stay healthy. It was a solid match. Speaking of dead crowd affecting matches, The Miz and Daniel Bryan, again, they had their moments. The crowd had their moments of being up for this match, but there was a lot of silence. A lot of silence. The match itself was okay. Again, being used to set up to further this, down the road. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm sure they're going to have a match at Mania. The blow-off, Daniel will finally get his win. It'd be nice, at least, if they'd extended to that point. It was a fine match. It wasn't anything great. They're furthering it along. The end. I mean, I don't have a ton to say about it. Aside from that was the most prominent thing for me is just the fact that the crowd was so quiet at certain points. It blew my mind. At first, I'm almost like, man, maybe the crowd's really pacing themselves to boo the hell out of the main event. Who knows? Finn Balor, the Demon, doesn't come out at WrestleMania in the paint, but boy, this match against Baron Corbin. Oh God. I mean, hey, at least Finn gets a win, a dominant win. It was the one way to get the crowd invested into this match that I don't think anybody gave a shit about. So fair play. Although, That really speaks to just how poor this whole feud was, where it's like, hey, boy, we need some way to make this match not suck and to have people care. Get him in the paint. So, it was good for what it was. What they do with Finn Balor next, who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? Speaking of, again, my disappointment, big New Japan fan as mentioned. I can't believe I've never cared less about Shinsuke Nakamura. In the past 7 to 8 years, I have never cared less about Shinsuke Nakamura. The funny thing is, it was a fine match, maybe even a good match. You know, the two mocking one another with their own, I'll use the term, signature taunts, even though that's not what I'm thinking of. Their own mannerisms, that'd be the better way to go. I agree. I watched Cultaholics recap of this. I agree with the thought of now whenever Jeff Hardy does something crazy, there's no longer that oh my god factor. It's the holy shit, is he okay factor. Swanton onto the apron. Madman. Nakamura wins as expected. Like I said, solid match. Orton comes out and looks menacing and then walks away instead of attacking Jeff Hardy. Never cared less about Randy Orton either. Boy, I don't know how they get anybody to care about Randy Orton at this point in time. I really don't. But Nakamura having the United States title does nothing for me. He should have had the WWE title. Jeff Hardy at this point, if he's still banged up, I mean, especially too with what's going on with Matt, I hope if he's banged up, just give him some time off, let him heal. For the love of God, don't do the apron swanton again, you madman. And Randy Orton's a person. That's it. Ronda Rousey wins the WWE Raw Women's title. Number one, no. With the fucking Mantar, no. Stop that. Stop that. With the war paint bullshit. Stop it. Natalya comes out, gets an ovation, comes out wearing Anvil's jacket. I didn't need those feels before this match. And then Ronda, I mean, we get yet another squash match tonight, the third, as she absolutely steamrolls Alexa Bliss and wins the belt clean. I'm shocked that there wasn't anything. I'm sure the original plan, as we all assumed, was to have Natalya cost her the belt. You couldn't quite do that. Don't think you want to turn Natalya heel after her dad just passed away. So I'm fine with this. Is it a little bit early? Probably. That's not to say she's not great, because she's been great since she's debuted, sheltered or not. I'm intrigued in a way to see what they do next. Bravo to Alexa Bliss on being, double jointed and popping the elbow out. That was good. That was a good touch. I don't have a whole hell of a lot to say. We'll see what they do next and whether or not the Natalya plans are completely ditched. And then the main event, where, look, I'm a fan of Roman Reigns. I'm not a fan, of course, of how they've booked him over the past 4 years. 4 spears. It took 4 spears tonight instead of 7, and even then he didn't beat him when he hit 7. Bravo to WWE for being conniving enough to bring out Braun Strowman and say, I'm gonna be honorable and cash this in. Although, if you were to be honorable, wouldn't you just make it a triple threat match instead of saying I'm gonna beat one of you two after you're done with your match? That's not honorable. Point aside. Bravo to them, because that was probably the main way to avoid this match getting shit on even more than it was, and to avoid having people leave. You still had beach balls. You still had both guys sucks chance. The match was still just fucking finisher spam galore. It was the worst match of the night. It was, by far. It was like 6 minutes, if that. By far the worst match of the night. I would rather watch the B Team's match again, not just because I'm a Curtis Axel fan. Roman wins. Thank God they finally pull off the bandage. But of course, Brock beat the shit out of Braun, so no cash-in happens. The end. Again, fucking bravo. Smart move on your part to do what you did. Brock loses the belt. Roman's champion. Face champion. He's gonna get booed the shit. But, yeah. I never want to see these two have a match again. I don't. Please, for the love of God. For the love of God. That's a whole different debate as far as how butchered the whole Roman Reigns thing's been over the past 4 years. Really has been. And hell, we even got a Roman, let's go Roman sucks chant. So if he wasn't officially, if he hasn't officially taken the torch from Cena yet, he has now. That said, again, SummerSlam in general was an okay show to, if not a good show. I didn't regret watching it, as I have with other WWE pay-per-views in the past 12 months. But there wasn't anything about it where I'm like, man, I gotta watch that again. Like I mentioned, okay, didn't need to be on the pay-per-view, but okay, same thing, for the love of God, never give me another Rollins Ziggler match. Guess what? There'll be a rematch on Raw, I'm sure. That sets up for the future. That was mainly for the main event, just to help make Strowman look good, if not great. You turn Becky heel. Setting up for the future. That was the only way to make people interested. Meh. It was a fine match, though. There wasn't a bad match on the card aside from the main event, so you can't call it a bad show. A lot of setup for the future. It was what it was. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. That was SummerSlam 2018. The night before, of course, we had NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4. Starting off with the tag title match, which again, as I've mentioned, I don't watch NXT on a weekly basis. If I hear a great match happen or something like that, I'll check it out. Some people were calling this a 5-star match. I wouldn't go that far. It was a great match, a great opener. I mean, obviously all 4 men involved are fucking spectacular, but I wouldn't personally go as far as calling it a 5-star match, but a great way to get the show started. Undisputed Era retain, as you know, which was the right call. I'm not going to sit there. I'm not a big fan of breaking down, like, here's what happened. Here's the, oh my God, he's going to throw in the towel spot. Go watch the match. It was a good match. Velveteen Dream and EC3, probably the weakest match on the card. That said, I'd rather watch that over any other match on SummerSlam, of course. Although, some have argued the highlight of the match was EC3's tights. Call me up, Vince. Which, for the love of God, please don't. Because I'm afraid of what might happen. But it was a really solid match. Velveteen Dream gets the win after a ridiculous fucking Death Valley driver on the apron. Fucking ridiculous. And good for EC3. Finally having that strong match. And good for Velveteen Dream getting a win on a takeover. He did it. But yeah, good match. Nothing spectacular. Ricochet and Adam Cole. Now, again, I don't know if it's... No, I'm not taking your survey, man. Get out of here. I don't know if it's just because I've been kind of on... Maybe I'm just still burnt out from the G1. This was a good match. I wouldn't call it this great match. As the dog's barking at something, we'll see if she stops. I wouldn't call this a great 5-star match either. It was a really good match, though. And I mean, obviously, the spot right there was a fucking Hurricane Rana, which was insane. The Adam Cole super kick that people point out. It was a really good match. Both guys, and especially Adam Cole, are extremely fucking over. That was one of the main differences, of course, between the two cards. One crowd's into everything, one crowd's only into certain spots. It was kind of meh. In comparing the crowds, I guess. I really enjoyed this match, though. I wouldn't say it was a 5-star classic, of course, but the first 3 matches were all good, good to great, you could argue. The women's match was the same. A little bit surprised to see Shayna Baszler lose already. Really good match, though. Really good match. And this is why I paired the wrestling talk with everything else, because I don't have much to say about this match. It's just a really good match. Kairi Sane wins. Is Shayna Baszler going up to the main roster? Maybe, maybe not. Fun fact, I just learned that Shayna Baszler's 38 years old. She's phenomenal. I love Shayna Baszler. She is one of the best women on the roster, by far. And I wouldn't be against, of course, people now, especially with all 4 members of the 4 Horsewomen involved with WWE, people are saying Survivor Series is going to happen. It might. It very well could. I'd be intrigued to see how that works. And then the main event. Definitely too early for another match between these two. That said, I'd say it delivered. And I do love the storytelling of Gargano's own frustration costing him. Some people thought the finish was a little bit weak. I like it. Ciampa as champion, still interesting, of course. We'll see. I just hope they don't have another match until about Mania. I mean, hell, some people are saying, okay, Johnny's going to get called up, and then we'll see Ciampa at the Raw after, probably. Could happen. Really strong match, though, the physicality of it and everything. I mean, obviously, the trilogy of matches have been phenomenal. The first one, still definitely the best one, but it was a really good match, and obviously a strong contender for Feud of the Year. It's much more difficult to talk about NXT because, again, Good, great match. Not a instant classic in my opinion. A great fucking match. A pretty damn good match. A pretty goddamn good match. A pretty goddamn good match. And a great match. What's one to say? It was a great show. The end. Shocker. It's an NXT takeover. That said, I've talked about this before in terms of having the video be this style where I just talk about multiple different things, because again, if I were to be like, here's a takeover review, it'd be 3 minutes. So, easier for me to talk about it in this fashion. We're going to wrap things up here because I'm sweating to death and I got to go see what the dog was barking at. So let me know, if you're stuck around from the hockey talk, of course, let me know what you think of the NHL 19 news. If you have any questions that you want to ask me as far as anything I didn't answer specifically, let me know. In terms of top 20 lists, nah. And in terms of anything wrestling related, let me know. If you have any specific thoughts of like, hey, well, what'd you think of this specific thing? Let me know. And yeah, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, tell people, anybody. I don't care who. Even if they don't have access to a computer, because then they might tell somebody and it'll be great. 10K subs and all. Yeah. SeatGeek.